Hello, and welcome to day 18 of Adventures in Tarot Casting, a series where I have been exploring some of the creative backdrops that we make in order to set a stage for you to show up and get a little playful with your practice. Some of these boards are paintings that I've done years ago, like this one in particular is a marker drawing that I did back in 2013 of some geometric designs on a skull, and it was created using Copic markers. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a skull with a bunch of sacred geometry influenced designs, mandala style designs within the face, and then I did kind of the red monochrome tone in the background just for symmetry's sake. But I thought it would be really neat for this backdrop to have a placement for 3 cards, and then I have tiles on the sides with also, like, I have a lot of tile placements on this one. And as I was sitting here looking at it, getting ready to film this video, I thought it would be really neat to do something I personally have never done, and this is going to be fully experimental and show you how these placements are just suggestions, right? So you see that it has the 3 big, spaces for cards. And I thought it would be like what decks you bring to the board, and what things also, like if you're using runes or crystals or charms or whatever, that also lends a different tone and a different element, right? So I thought it'd be really neat to use the out of hand tarot, and then I'm going to use the Linocut Lenormand above and below here, and then I'm going to use Spirit Keeper tiles and then Portal squared. But the decks that you bring to your practice and to these stages also will have different voices, for lack of a better word. There's something else coming, but I couldn't think of. So it shows you just it can show you a different reading, right? So let's just get started and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm not going to do the full 3-card spread right off the bat, because I feel like this center column really wants to be the focus of the reading, and then these are going to play into it, and then I have the 4 corners. So let's see what the center card's going to be. Okay. Hear my dog walking around. All right. So we have the 4 of Wands, right? And so in this placement, I thought it would be neat to say, okay, so the 4 of Wands, a lot of times I want to mention that a lot of times when I'm doing these tarot casting sessions, or when I'm just wanting to play with a board, or, sometimes I just want to use my cards and I don't have a query. So I want like a message to come through. I'm not one of those people, like I'm probably a tarot reader's worst client, because I never have a question. I just want a reading, right? So these boards allow me to show up in that space of not having a question and just wanting a reading. So the 4 of Wands, the first thing that comes to mind is like celebration. So it makes me think about, what is it in my life right now that I have to celebrate? Like even the small things, and usually it's the small things that we overlook that mean the most, right? So what is it that's celebrating? What is it that I am just happy to have in my life that's worth this feeling of party, this worth of connection, So Wands is an active thing, and usually in the, the traditional decks, they show like people about to be going to a party or at a party. There's like a trellis and all the things. So this one, when I was drawing this card, I was thinking about the conferences that I go to and the connections that I've made. And to me, that's the kind of party I like more so than going and, drinking and doing all the things. Like for me, I like shared creativity. So keeping that in mind and keeping the central focus of this card, what is it that we're celebrating? I'm going to do 3 Lenormand above and 3 below. So above we've got Fox, Stars, and Sun. And then below, we have Scythe. You notice all the stalker cards that keep coming up? I feel like we've had Scythe a couple times during this series. Letter. And, okay, and Tree, right? So now we have this space, and it's like I said, we're just getting playful, and this is an experimental reading just because I haven't used this spread in this particular fashion before, but it makes me think about celebration. So what above, you know, what energy is above? Like what message is, why are we celebrating, you know? And I've got stars with fox and sun, and for me, I see that as following my own personal guides to get outside of the box in order to really shine. You know, for me, fox is normally a card of entrepreneurship. That's how I learned it. For you, it might be something else, but for me, it's showing the fact that I've been this entrepreneur was because I followed my guides. I followed this purpose, this prophecy, what was written in my own proverbial stars, and that has given me a pretty bright life. That has shined. I've been able to be happy and share that with others, right? And below, the energy that contributes to that, Scythe, Letter, and Tree, we've got the fact that I was quick to act on the messages that were received, on the correspondences that I got. You know, they showed up quickly, and then I branched out. And to me, I look at this as like a download, right? Like this is something that I have gotten from my own personal guides. And I feel like if I'm not the one who's going to act on it, then somebody else will, and that's okay. Like I truly believe that ideas, and we've got this Four of Wands, which also can be ideas and passions and stuff. Their energy, if you haven't read Big Magic by Liz Gilbert, definitely read it because she talks a lot about how ideas have this energy, and when they present themselves to you, they really want to be born into the world. And that's okay. If you don't have the time to do it, they will find the person who has the time to do it. In this particular reading, like what do I have to celebrate? The fact that I was quick to act on some of these messages, and therefore, because, you know, maybe it's the tools that I make, maybe it's going on the idea of the tiles and doing the boards and getting like merging art and creativity together. That was something that I acted quickly upon because I received this note from the universe, right? And then I branched out. So now that we have this column, like we have this whole thing building of what we talked about, let's bring in some cards on the sides. And they could be like influences or pillars, or, you know, you could say past, present, and future, but I kind of feel like influences. I feel like maybe a pro and con, perhaps. You know, pick your favorite two angel devils on shoulders type of thing, you know. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to put one on each side. And it just kind of gives you the conversations. It's a good way to work with the cards and to really see how they want to read. So we have 6 of Cups and 4 of Cups on the sides, right? And right off the back, I think about how in my childhood, imagination ran rampant. We never were able to, not that we weren't able to be bored, but boredom was not a thing in our life, because if we said the dreaded B word to my mom, we would be gifted chores to do. So we would spend a lot of time outside, and we would spend a lot of time in the realm of imagination, right? So I'm seeing this as like the two factors of why I've kind of found this space of creativity and desire to share it with everybody, share it with you. And so I'm going to amplify these two sides by putting 2 tarot tiles on each side from the Spirit Keepers. And I find that Benabel's deck really allows you to get a lot deeper. So we have the 6 of Swords, which is the Ferryman. And the Outlaw, which is the Hanged One. And then the Ace of Wands, which is, she has it as the Sacred Fire. And the Chariot. Okay, so going into that space of, you know, like I said, we're celebrating and we're in this place of evaluating how we got here, how we got to this point of being able to follow our calling and to act quickly upon it. And the two pillars on the sides comes with imagination and boredom, right? Imagining all the things that could be, and then having the Hanged One with the Six of Swords, it's showing that being able to tap into those moments when we're like remembering the world through childlike eyes, especially if you're in a hanged position, if you're in this pause and you're going, okay, what's next? What is going to bring me to the next thing? What's going to ferry me to my next step? Because, you know, sometimes we do get into this state of being, well, I just don't know what's next. I'm bored. I can't think of anything. I'm uninspired. But that's okay, because we need those downtimes, right? Like, we need to be able to be in a position to look at things, look at all we have and all we've been, but also evaluate, okay, that served me. Let's look at what we have to celebrate. Let's pause and just trust that the ferryman, that the Six of Swords, that is going to show up at the perfect time, right? And so then we think about the times when we get in this hanged position and we're so like just flipping through channels, and I don't want to read the books and I don't want to do all the things that are around me that can really help stave off this feeling of ennui. But I think that we have to experience it sometimes in order to have the divine spark to show up again and ignite some more fire in order to get us moving, right? Like, so the Ace of Wands with the Chariot is really like lighting a match under our proverbial butts, right? So when we feel like we're in this space, it's okay. It gives us the time to dream. It gives us the time to reflect. And through reflection, it's what helps us mentally get past these roadblocks, right? Like these mental blocks. And so that shows you how we can, you know, use just layering, and then it goes back and forth, and it talks about like, okay, well, these go in here and these go in here, and, you know, how the reading could completely be full. But again, you know, I have these spaces and I like to throw things in there. So I'm going to bring in some of my square tiles. That these are the nature portals, but I made them into a small square version. I do have a print on demand deck version of it, but I like the tiles. And so these are just going to be kind of like our little points to ponder and add to the conversation, because we love animals. So we've got squirrel. Squirrel's going to go there. And we have frog. I've been seeing so many frogs lately. It is the season. And my favorite, blue jay. They're such jerks, but I love them. And snake. Oh yeah. All right. So these add to this conversation of, you know, I can deep dive a little bit and I can say, oh, okay, all of these creatures exist in the place where I live. You know, we have the rat snakes, we have the squirrels, the frogs, and blue jays in abundance. But squirrels also tell me to reach out for things. Like when we're feeling bored and we're saying, okay, I'm at the top, but you never think like when you've gotten to where maybe you think that this is it, this is my highest peak, it's not true. I mean, you might have some valleys coming up, but you will get to a top again. The squirrel tells you, you have to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to reach for something. You know, don't assume that something's not for you, even if it's just, you know, like I think about the bird feeders and the bird seed, and they don't know that it's technically for the birds. The squirrels are like, hey, I can get from the tree to the bird feeder. I'm going to stretch myself out there and get it because I want what's in that bird feeder. So whenever I see squirrel, I just think about being able to just stretch out and put yourself out there. And then frogs, so much comes to mind with frogs, but I think about, you know, with this particular reading about reminiscing and feeling of boredom and, you know, what now, and its stillness. You know, frogs can be very still. They live between land and water. You know, you think about like when working with animals, I always think about what they are and what we observe in them. And then, you know, you can insert all your favorite metaphysical properties, but frogs, there's so much stillness in them until there's not, right? So they take it all in, and then they will jump. They strike when they're ready. So there's a stillness, which is very much in line with the Hanged One and the Four of Cups, and just kind of that, is it boredom or is it reflection, right? And so then the blue jay is saying, okay, now that you know this, use your voice. Be heard, be seen, show your colors. You know, you can dabble in it or you can go after it. So just, you know, open up what it is that you want and be prepared to vocalize it, you know. And that's, I think about blue jays and think about like they're aggressive birds, but they take what they want, right? And then the snake, I always think of transformation. As you know, I have a lot of snake stuff. I think of transformation and shedding and being able to see where we came from, but don't keep yourself in that space because you've outgrown this, you know. Like, yes, it's nice to reflect about memories and the things that we did, and there's lessons that we learned, but we've also, we're not this child anymore, you know. We've grown into this person who is capable of doing whatever they want. And if they choose to be quiet and just sit and watch TV, that's fine. But like snake is also saying, you've shed your skin so many times in this life, and you will continue to shed, and you will continue to transform. And you can just continue to do that. You were always going to outgrow a version of yourself. You know, even right now when we think that we're celebrating all that we've achieved, there could be there could be more. Like, I think about all that has happened in the past 10 years of my life, and I embrace the next 10, you know. So this is this transformation period, and especially with pandemic and all the changes that we've seen so fast in the last 2 years, this could definitely be this letter with scythe and growth. Like, we've been forced to grow, you know. So it's just kind of these guideposts from the animals and intermixing them. And you could sit here and you could just kind of go, okay, well, what would the frog and the snake, like, the snake would probably eat the frog, but like if you go like this and you just kind of look around, and you can play these images off of each other as often and as much as you want until you get to a good point in the conversation. I personally, like I said, I don't read for others. My mother tells me yet. These videos that I do are kind of gifts for you. If you get a message out of it, then that is such a bonus. But I like to show you how I show up to my cards and how I show up to these boards and get the conversation going, because I truly feel that tarot, oracle, Lenormand, since they are artistic, they are symbols that help us access this part of our life, right? They help us see things. You know, if I'm talking about the snakes with the Six of Cups, I'm immediately whisked to summers at my grandfather's farm when we were little, and how we would catch all the milk snakes, and, you know, we would make these huge stories, and we were feral children. And, you know, so there's no, like, you can attach meanings to all these cards if you want to, but I think that it's so much more valuable when you allow yourself to get outside of the box. And that's I guess my goal with these videos, is to give you a permission slip to really get playful. And, you know, I'm going to end it here because I could literally babble forever. So I hope you enjoy this. Let me know if you have any particular board you want to see me do. We are past the halfway point in the month. And tomorrow I think is going to be a short and sweet one, just because we have plans to go visit the in-laws and, you know, all that stuff. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.